Imagine waking up in a world where summer never truly arrives. The sky is pale, the wind cuts like broken glass, forests are smaller, oceans are lower, and half the northern world is buried under walls of ice taller than mountains. New York is not a city. London is not a city. Canada is a frozen fortress. Northern Europe is a white desert. And every human alive is still living under one ancient rule: move, adapt, or disappear. Now ask yourself this: if the Ice Age never ended, would civilization ever begin? For most of human history, Earth was not the warm, stable planet we know today. It was colder, harsher, and far more unpredictable. Massive ice sheets covered huge parts of North America, Europe, and Asia. Sea levels were lower, rainfall patterns were different, deserts expanded, forests retreated, animals were bigger, stranger, and more dangerous. Then, around 11,700 years ago, the last ice age ended. Temperatures rose, ice melted, rivers swelled, forests spread, grasslands shifted, and humans began entering one of the most important periods in our entire story, the Holocene. That warmer climate helped make farming possible. Farming helped create surplus. Surplus helped create villages. Villages became towns. Towns became cities. Cities became kingdoms, empires, laws, writing, money, armies, and eventually the world you live in right now. But in this timeline, that warming never comes. The glaciers do not retreat. The climate does not stabilize. The Ice Age stays, and the human future becomes something completely different. At first, humans survive, because survival is what we were built for. Small bands of hunter-gatherers move across cold plains, following herds of reindeer, bison, wild horses, musk oxen, and mammoths. Fire becomes more important than ever. Clothing becomes a technology of life and death. Shelter is no longer just a place to sleep. It becomes armor against the world. In our real timeline, humans already knew how to live in Ice Age conditions. They built shelters from mammoth bones and animal hides. They made needles from bone, stitched layered clothing, created tools from stone, antler, and ivory, and painted animals deep inside caves. They were not primitive in the way people often imagine. They were intelligent, social, creative, and deeply adapted to danger. But surviving an ice age is not the same as building a civilization, and this is where the alternate timeline begins to twist. Without the end of the ice age, farming becomes much harder, not impossible everywhere, but far more limited. In the real world, agriculture began in regions where climate became stable enough for wild grains, animals, and human settlements to interact in predictable ways. Places like the Fertile Crescent, parts of China, Mesoamerica, and the Andes offered certain combinations of plants, animals, rainfall, and seasons. But in a permanent ice age, much of that stability never appears. Rainfall shifts, growing seasons shorten, cold snaps return without warning. Wild grains struggle in many regions. Herd animals keep moving. Human groups cannot rely on one patch of land year after year, and if you cannot reliably grow food, it becomes extremely difficult to create permanent villages. No permanent villages means no large food surplus. No surplus means fewer specialists. No specialists means no full-time builders, priests, scribes, kings, metalworkers, tax collectors, or soldiers. Humanity may still be clever, humanity may still be artistic, humanity may still be spiritual, but without stable farming, the road to civilization becomes blocked by snow. A stick-figure farmer tries to plant seeds in frozen ground while a dark glacier looms in the distance. In this world, the first major human societies do not form around fields of wheat, they form around migration routes. The most powerful groups are not the ones who own land. They are the ones who understand movement. They know when the herds cross frozen valleys. They know where rivers break through the ice. They know which caves stay warm, which coastal cliffs provide shellfish, and which animal bones burn when wood is scarce. Their maps are not drawn on paper. They are carried in memory, song, scars, and stories. A child in this world does not grow up learning the boundaries of a farm. A child learns the direction of the wind, the track of a hoof, the color of dangerous ice, the smell of wolves before sunrise. And because survival depends on knowledge, elders become more important than kings. In our timeline, civilization often rewards control of land, food, water, labor, and trade. But in this Ice Age world, control is fragile. You cannot easily command a glacier. You cannot tax a migrating herd. You cannot build a palace if your people must move before winter kills them. So power develops differently. Instead of kings sitting on thrones, you might have root keepers, fire guardians, weather readers, and memory leaders. The most respected people are those who can keep the group alive through the next impossible season. But humans always organize, humans always compete, humans always create meaning. So even without cities, there would still be politics. Some groups would control the best cave systems, others would guard rich hunting valleys. Some would dominate coastal zones where fish, seals, and shellfish offer more reliable food. Over generations, these places could become semi-permanent gathering hubs, not cities like Uruk or Babylon, but cold world centers of trade, marriage, ritual, and alliance. Several stick-figure clans meet around a huge fire near an icy cliffside, exchanging tools, hides, shells, and carved bone objects. Picture a frozen version of a marketplace. No walls, no streets, no temples of baked brick. Just hundreds of people arriving from different directions, wrapped in fur, carrying ivory tools, obsidian blades, animal hides, pigments, ornaments, and stories from lands no one else has seen. For a few weeks they gather, they trade, they arrange marriages, they settle disputes, they perform rituals under the northern lights. Then the herds move, and the human world scatters again. This means technology still advances, but not in the same direction. In our timeline, farming pushed humans toward storage, property, measurement, writing, and bureaucracy. In the endless Ice Age, technology would focus on mobility, heat, hunting, memory, and survival efficiency. Clothing would become more advanced much earlier. Shelters would become lighter, stronger, and faster to build. Sleds, snowshoes, skis, and animal-assisted transport might become some of the most important inventions in human history. Boats could also become essential along ice-edge coasts, where rich marine ecosystems support larger communities. Instead of the plow changing the world, the sled might. Instead of the granary becoming the center of power, the fire shelter might. Instead of the city wall defining civilization, the migration corridor might define who lives and who dies. And animals would shape this world in a huge way. In our real timeline, many Ice Age megafauna disappeared near the end of the Pleistocene, likely due to a combination of climate change and human pressure. But if the Ice Age never ends, some cold-adapted giants might survive longer. Mammoths may not vanish so quickly. Woolly rhinos might remain in parts of Eurasia. Giant deer could roam open landscapes. Cave lions, hyenas, wolves, and bears would remain major threats. Humanity would not stand above nature the way modern civilization often imagines. Humans would remain inside the food web. A bad hunt could starve a group. A predator attack could destroy a family. A herd changing direction could decide whether children live through winter. This creates a much more intimate relationship with animals. Not cute, not romantic, but powerful. Humans would know animals as food, danger, spirit, rival, and teacher. Cave art might become even more central. Rituals around hunting may become more elaborate. The boundary between survival and religion would blur. But what about population? That may be the biggest difference of all. In our timeline, agriculture allowed populations to explode. More food supported more children. More children created more workers. More workers built larger settlements. Larger settlements created more disease, more conflict, more innovation, and more hierarchy. In an endless Ice Age, global population stays much smaller. Maybe humans spread widely, but not densely. There are fewer large communities, fewer crowded settlements, fewer epidemics, fewer armies, fewer empires. This sounds peaceful at first, but it is not necessarily easier. A smaller world means every death matters more. Every failed hunt is more dangerous. Every injury is more serious. Every winter is a test. And because groups are scattered, knowledge can disappear. One clan may invent a brilliant tool, but if that clan dies, the invention may vanish with them. Progress becomes slower, more fragile, and more regional. There may be no pyramids, no ziggurats, no Roman roads, no Great Wall, no medieval castles, no industrial cities. But there may be something else. A planet of human cultures incredibly adapted to extreme environments. Some live along icy coasts, hunting seals and fishing under frozen skies. Some follow mammoth herds across open steppe. Some build semi-permanent cave networks. Some develop rich oral traditions that preserve maps across thousands of miles. Some become expert boat people along cold ocean edges. Some settle near geothermal zones, where warm ground and steam vents create rare pockets of life. And in these rare, warm pockets, something close to civilization might begin. Not the farming civilization we know, something stranger. Imagine a valley heated by volcanic activity, protected from the worst winds, with reliable animals, edible plants, and flowing water. Humans return there again and again. Over generations, shelters become more permanent. Ritual sites appear. Storage pits are dug into frozen ground. Leaders emerge. Trade routes connect the valley to distant hunting peoples. This could become an Ice Age city, not made from mud brick and sun-baked clay, but from stone, bone, hide, ice, and smoke. Its wealth would not be grain. Its wealth would be heat. Firewood, animal fat, bone fuel, warm caves, geothermal steam, protected water. In our world, rulers controlled food and land. In this world, rulers might control warmth. That is a terrifying thought, because when warmth is power, exile becomes a death sentence. Eventually, human intelligence still pushes forward. The brain that created language, myth, art, tools, and strategy does not disappear just because the climate stays cold. But the path is slower, more survival-based, less explosive. Writing might emerge much later or in a different form. Instead of counting grain, early marks may track herd movement, winter deaths, stored hides, fire fuel, or clan agreements. Mathematics may develop around distance, season, animal numbers, and fuel needs. Astronomy may become even more important because reading the sky helps predict seasonal movement in a world where timing is everything. But without large agricultural surplus, there may be no rapid Bronze Age, no great Imperial Age, no early Industrial Revolution. Metalworking could still happen in some regions, especially where groups discover ores and fuel sources. But widespread metallurgy would be harder without large settlements and specialized labor. Humanity might enter something like a deep nomadic age, lasting tens of thousands of years. Not frozen in intelligence, frozen in opportunity. And then comes the strangest question. Would modern humans ever become modern? Biologically, yes, we are still Homo sapiens. But culturally, the world would be unrecognizable. There may be no nations as we know them, no borders drawn across maps, no cities with millions of people, no internet, no skyscrapers, no global agriculture feeding billions. The human population might be a fraction of what it is today, maybe millions instead of billions. Maybe scattered networks of cold-adapted peoples, each with deep knowledge of their land, their animals, their roots, and their sky. A person from our world might look at them and think humanity failed to advance, but that might be wrong, because they would have mastered something we almost forgot: how to live without assuming the world will protect you. In our timeline, the end of the Ice Age gave humans a gift. Not an easy gift. Farming brought disease, inequality, war, labor, hierarchy, and suffering. But it also gave us scale. It allowed ideas to accumulate in dense settlements. It allowed writing, science, architecture, law, and global civilization. The warm world did not make humans intelligent. It gave human intelligence a stage large enough to transform the planet. In the endless ice age, that stage remains buried under ice. Humanity survives, but it does not explode. It adapts, but it does not dominate. It dreams, but those dreams are shaped by hunger, cold, migration, and firelight. And maybe, in that world, the most important human invention is not the city, not money, not writing, not the wheel. Maybe the greatest invention is simply this: a circle of people gathered close together in the dark, keeping one small flame alive against a planet that never warmed. Glowing fire inside a cave, while a massive glacier covers the world outside. And that is the real twist. The Ice Age did not just end a chapter of prehistory, it opened the door to everything we call civilization. So if the Ice Age never ended, we might still be human, but the world would never become ours.